Peppa Pig, right? This show has become a true global phenomenon, entertaining children all around the world for over 20 years now. But have you ever noticed that in various episodes, objects seem to appear and disappear as if by magic? In the episode Picnic, the entire pig family gathers for a delicious outdoor meal, which is great. But if you look closely at the scenes, you'll notice a small mistake. Initially, on the spread-out picnic blanket, there are various foods, including 2 sandwiches. Now, pay attention to the next scene. Every member of the pig family is holding a sandwich. How did that happen? 2 sandwiches turned into 4. It's the miracle of sandwich multiplication. In addition to the sandwiches that appear out of nowhere, there's another curious detail. 4 plates appear on the ground. Interestingly, there were only 2 at the beginning. And it doesn't stop there. 2 glasses of orange juice also pop up. One next to Mummy Pig and another next to Daddy Pig. And what about the orange juice box? Well, it just disappears from the scene without any logical explanation. Really? The multiplication of sandwiches and plates is almost miraculous, haha. And there's so much more. Grab some popcorn, because you're about to discover more unbelievable mistakes in the incredible world of Peppa with us. Everyone has suspected that Madame Gazelle is special in some way, aside from being just a teacher, right? Well, we discovered another of her abilities in the Halloween episode. She doesn't have a shadow. But that's not all. In the episode where Emily Elephant is introduced to the class, another one of Madame Gazelle's powers is revealed. She can become invisible. At the very beginning, we see her and Emily standing side by side with the teacher right behind the little elephant. But as soon as the scene focuses on Emily, the teacher completely vanishes, as if she's wearing an invisibility cloak. And although it seems like magic, this is actually just an animation error. Another funny mistake happens in the episode Daddy Pig's Birthday. Peppa and George decide to call their dad's office, and the call ends up at Mr. Rabbit's desk. However, something strange happens. Take a look at the whiteboard with calculations next to Daddy Pig. When Mr. Rabbit transfers the call, the board mysteriously shifts to appear behind Daddy Pig. Moreover, even the calculations on the board completely change. In the first scene, we see blue letters, a purple circle, and the letters F and X in green. But in the next scene, the board is filled with a red equation, a blue sum of 1 + 1, and several numbers and letters in yellow. Who erased the previous calculations and made these new ones? Another curious error in that same scene. Observe the cup full of colored pencils behind Daddy Pig. The pencils also change position. In the first shot, the purple pencil is on one side and the pink pencil is on the opposite side. However, in the next shot, they swap places. It's a small detail, but it raises an interesting question. Why would there be colored pencils in an architect's office? If you were also intrigued by these little mysteries, share your opinion in the comments by writing, "Why?" Who knows? Maybe this question will reach the creators of Peppa Pig and they'll give us an answer. In the episode where Peppa has to build a castle for a school project, we notice a rather curious scene. The pig family's table is full of materials like pens, papers, and colored pencils, ready for the task. Next to the crayon box, you can see various items like straws, colored sheets, and more scattered pencils. However, as soon as Peppa answers a call from her friend Susie, all these materials mysteriously disappear. What's left on the table is only the crayon box. Speaking of crayons, pay attention to the box next to Peppa. We can see exactly 3 crayons inside it and 3 outside. However, in the next scene, when Peppa answers Susie's call again, the 3 crayons that were outside the box mysteriously vanish. And what's even stranger, now there are 4 crayons scattered on the floor. Additionally, 3 more crayons appear on the counter by the sink, right next to Daddy Pig's head. While we're talking about changing scenes, take a good look at what happens to the kitchen sink. Initially, it's located near the window, but in the next scene, the sink just vanishes without a trace. Abracadabra! It seems like Peppa Pig and her family also know how to do magic. That would be the only explanation for this, don't you think? In the episode where Peppa's class goes camping, another continuity error occurs. First, Mrs. Wolf teaches the children how to blow, not to knock down houses, but to make soap bubbles, which seems like a fun lesson. However, right after that, all the children, as if by magic, suddenly no longer have the bubble toys in their hands. How did that happen so quickly? These kids sure are fast when they want to get rid of something, don't you think? In the episode The Fair, we are introduced to various stalls, each more interesting than the last. An interesting detail is Mr. Bull's stall, located right at the corner of the scene. And between his stall and the apple stall, there's a post. However, as the scene changes and we see the stall again, the post simply vanishes from the scene. It seems like a lot of things disappear in Peppa's town. Speaking of the fair, notice another fun error. At the very beginning, we see a pigeon pecking at Miss Cow's stall, who later becomes Mrs. Bulletin. But within seconds, the same pigeon appears on top of Mr. Bull's stall. Could this pigeon be a carrier pigeon, delivering a love letter from Miss Cow to Mr. Bull? Who knows? But we certainly know how this story ends. Still in the same episode, we notice another curious detail. The apple stall is one of the first to be prominently displayed on screen. As we mentioned earlier, it was quite close to Mr. Bull's stall. However, in the following scene, when the pig family appears, the space between the two stalls seems to have magically increased, and Mr. Bull's stall completely disappears from the frame. Certainly a detail we couldn't help but notice. Returning to the school project episode, we find another interesting little detail that most people might miss. When Mummy Pig answers the phone, the buttons on the device are multicolored. The first button is orange, the second is yellow, the third is light gray, and the bottom one is blue. But when Mummy Pig hands the phone to Peppa, the buttons change color and position. The light gray button swaps places with the orange one, and the blue button also appears in a different spot in the bottom row. Despite these color changes and funny details in Peppa Pig, one thing never changes. We're always posting videos about movies and cartoons. So, if you want to keep up with all these curiosities, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. In the episode where the pig family is heading to Grandma Pig's house, we find references to several well-known fairy tales. Interestingly, they end up at the bear family's house. When they arrive, there's no path behind the house. However, as soon as they receive instructions and exit through the back door, an unexpected path magically appears. And to top it off, a yellow sign appears out of nowhere. This is definitely a very intriguing detail. In the episode where Peppa, George, and their mom are preparing a surprise for Daddy Pig, we see that Peppa and George are carrying buckets of water, while Mummy Pig leaves the house with 4 balloons. But when the family finishes tying the balloons to the tree branches, we suddenly notice there are 6 balloons, 2 more than in the initial scene. Could this be a miracle of balloon multiplication? Speaking of balloons, there's another mystery involving these objects in the episode. It happens when Daddy Pig arrives at the surprise. At this moment, we can notice that the colors of the balloons have switched. Specifically, the yellow and pink balloons change places without any explanation. This is another curious detail that adds some mystery to the scene and is yet another animation error. In an episode where George is encouraged to eat his salad after having pizza, we notice another interesting case of objects appearing and disappearing. Grandma Pig serves cucumbers and 2 pieces of tomato on George's plate, and it's clear from his expression that he's not happy about it. But strangely, when we look back at George's plate after everyone has finished their pizza, only 1 piece of tomato remains. Did George work some magic and eat everything when no one was looking? I doubt it. But it's another curious mistake. Another funny moment happens in the episode where Pedro Pony is shaking a tree, and a little tortoise falls on his nose. Ouch, that must hurt. Pedro's glasses fall into the mud, and his dad, the town's optometrist, is called. When Dr. Pony arrives, he's wearing a fancy blue bow tie, adding a nice touch to his look. But in a later scene, when everyone realizes the poor tortoise is still on its back, notice that Dr. Pony's bow tie has vanished. Another costume mystery for our list. In the episode where Mr. Bull and his brother warn Dr. Hamster about her clinic being in the way, Mr. Rabbit appears to supervise the work. He calmly walks up the hill, while we see the bulldozers working in the background. Interestingly, right before and after this scene, we see these same machines parked exactly in the spot where Mr. Rabbit walked without any issues. It really doesn't make any sense. Another interesting detail appears at the start of the same episode. We see that one of the bulldozers is being driven by Mr. Rhino, but the other machine seems to be operated by Miss Rabbit. Of course, it's her. However, when the Bull Brothers decide to start digging a tunnel, the bulldozers are mysteriously empty, and both of them climb in as if the machines were ready to go. Did Mr. Rhino and Miss Rabbit go for a snack? Spotting these little mistakes in Peppa Pig doesn't take away from the charm of the show. It actually makes the experience even more fun. Now, whenever I watch, I'm always on the lookout for any new detail or mistake that might pop up, and I get a good laugh out of it. If you find any more errors, share them in the comments. Who knows, they might end up in the next video, and we might even mention you. Now, check out 2 awesome videos on the screen to keep hanging out with us. Thanks, and see you next time!